Come on. Good morning. Sorry about that. Laptop didn't want me to go live, apparently. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. Hi, Facebook. Thank you, Lily. Hi, Ava. Hi, Lily. Anybody else that comes in, hello. I probably won't see you if you come in. Anyways, it's AA day. Go ahead and let some people come in. I waited for Facebook to go live until I had YouTube live. My laptop is slow for some crazy reason. It just wants to be slow. I did the updates on it and everything, and yeah, and there's nothing on it. Just a few pictures on it, and I don't know. Just crazy. Anyway, just a second. Many people know I'm live, so you don't bug me. Put it on silent just so that way. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. My name's Sandra, and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Please do not do any judgment in the chat. Just because they're here doesn't mean that they are the alcoholic who suffers. They might be here to learn ways that might help a friend or family member, or help them to understand what their friend or family member is going through. Because it is, hard to relate to somebody with our problem if they don't know how to relate to them. So that does help also. Anyways, I do list the books we're reading, the page number, and what the story is that we're reading. Because in the big book they have different stories that you read. So, all right, let's go on with it. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made the decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Anyway, so we're reading the big book. I have the 4th edition, so you might be on a different page. But that's why I always say what story we're reading, is because they are different. And I found out from AA meeting last Monday that they are working on a new book. It's a new generational book. It should be out relatively soon. They couldn't give an exact date, but it is in the works, and I am excited because then I don't have to try and say all the things that should be in here to go along with the people that need it and whatever walk of life that they have going on. Anyways, of course, Copper's going to start bugging me because I'm live. I'm live, and you know it, and you can go find your ball. Thank you. I wasn't satisfied with that toy. Go find it. Go find it. Lay down and chew on your toy. Thank you. So we are reading Grounded on page 522. Alcohol clipped this pilot's wings until sobriety and hard work brought him back to the sky. I'm an alcoholic. I am part Comanche Indian and grew up poor but in a loving home until alcoholism took both of my parents. Then the divorces came, 3 for each parent. And I learned the anger that is such a part of alcoholic family life. I vowed I would never be an alcoholic. Active in my Indian community, I saw what the alcohol did there also, and I was repelled and disgusted by it. I graduated from high school at 17 and immediately left to join the Marine Corps. I found a home there, relishing the tough discipline, camaraderie, and esprit de corps. I excelled and was one of 3 who was promoted upon graduation from boot camp. 4.5 years later, I was given an opportunity to go into flight training. Success and the end of the 18-month period would mean pilot wings and an officer's commission. Again, I excelled. Although most of my peers had college educations and fear of failure constantly plagued me. I graduated near the top of my class. I excelled at some things else also. Drinking was encouraged. The pilot persona was one of hard, dusty flying with equally hard drinking, and attendance at happy hour was considered a duty. I did not need any encouragement, and reveled in the squadron camaraderie, good-natured joking, and competition at these events. 1 year into my training, I reported for the final phase and met a young beauty. I was drunk the night I met her, and she would have nothing to do with me. But I could never approach her without the false courage of alcohol gave me. The next day I saw her again, this time sober, and we began to date. I graduated from flight training on her 20th birthday, and she pinned my gold wings and my second lieutenant bars on me. We were married 2 weeks later. We have just celebrated our 35th anniversary, and she is the most wonderful person I could ever have found. We immediately had 2 young sons, and I left to go to war in Vietnam. 13 months later, I returned. I spent 11.5 years total time in the Marine Corps before deciding to get out because of the family separation my military career required. I'd seen enough family chaos to know that I could never allow that to occur in my own family. So reluctantly, even painfully, I resigned my commission and joined a major airline. I gained a reputation in the Marines I was proud of. I had many accomplishments to my credit, a good combat record with decorations and skill as a pilot. Slowly, I worked my way up within the airline structure and finally became a captain. After 20 years, it had been a strife-ridden company, and our family endured some tough times. During one of the lengthy labor strikes, we adopted a baby girl. She completed our family. Nearly half Chippewa Indian, she was a beautiful baby of 17 days when we took her home with us. My drinking continued to escalate, but I did not believe I was any different from my drinking comrades. I was very wrong. I had 2 charges of driving under the influence, years apart, which I wrote off to bad luck, and I paid handsome legal fees to get the charges reduced. This was years before the Federal Aviation Administration began cross-checking driver's records against pilot licenses. One night after a hard afternoon and late evening of drinking, I and my two fellow flight crew members were arrested. We were charged with violation of a federal law that prohibits the operation of a common carrier while impaired. It had never been used against airline pilots before. I was devastated. Suddenly, I was thrust into an experience beyond my worst nightmare. I arrived home the next day, sick at heart and unable to look my wife in the face. Ashamed and destroyed, I saw 2 doctors that day and was diagnosed as an alcoholic. I was in treatment that night, going in with only the clothes on my back. The news media had picked up the story, and it was blared all over the world, on all the major television networks. And my shame and humiliation were beyond words. All the light in my life had gone out, and I entertained the idea of off myself. I could not envision ever smiling again, or having a day with a bright horizon. I was hurting more than I ever knew a human could hurt, and I just wanted the pain to end. Hopper, stop. He's looking at his bed. He's having an allergic reaction to something. And when I get done with this, I gotta wash my blankets and my sheets because he might be allergic to the laundry soap that we used last. So, yeah. Anyway, I became notorious in commercial aviation, and the media had a field day with me. I lost my FAA medal certificate because of my diagnosis of alcoholism, and the FAA issued an emergency revocation of all my licenses. I thought about my parents, now both passed, my Indian people, and all those I had previously considered alcoholics, and I knew I had become exactly what I vowed I would never become. I learned my career was over via the 6 o'clock news one week after entering treatment. I refused to watch TV, but my fellow patients kept me informed. I was the lead story on the news every news for weeks. I was joke fodder for the late night TV comics as they ridiculed me, my profession, and my airline. I also learned I was going to federal prison. The sentence was mandatory if convicted, and there was no doubt in my mind that I would be. With nothing left, I dedicated myself to learning about recovery. I fervently believe that the key to my sobriety, and hence my survival, lay in the power of all I was being taught, and I spent no idle moments in treatment. I worked as hard as I had worked to earn my wings, but this time my life was at stake. I struggled to regain a spiritual connection as I underwent one legal crisis after another. I got out of treatment determined to complete 90 AA meetings in 90 days, but was afraid my court date would interfere, so I completed my 90 meetings in 67 days. I went through an intense media-covered 3-week trial. On most evenings after the day in court, I sought refuge in AA meetings and renewed my strength for the coming day. Recovery and all I had learned allowed me to handle things much, much differently than my two co-defendants. Many spoke of my serenity throughout this experience of horror, which surprised me. Inside, I did not feel what others seemed to see. I was found guilty and sentenced to 16 months in federal prison. My two co-defendants received 12-month sentences and chose to remain free pending appeal, while I chose to go into prison and get it over. I had learned how to live life on life's terms and not my own. From somewhere back in my high school days, I remembered a poem that says something to the effect of, "Cowards die 1,000 deaths, a brave man only once." And I wanted to do what had to be done. I was terrified of walking into prison, but told my children that I could not come out the back door until I walked through the front. I remembered that courage was not the absence of fear. It was the ability to continue in the face of it. On the day I entered prison, 9 of my fellow pilots began making our family's house payments, which they did for nearly 4 years. After my release from prison, I made 4 attempts to get them to let us take over, and they refused each time. So many came to help us from places we could never have imagined. I served 424 days in a federal prison system. I started an AA meeting in prison, which was opposed by the prison administration, and they hassled us weekly as we came together to meet. The weekly meeting was a quiet oasis in the desert, a few moments of serenity in a prison full of bedlam. My prison term was followed by 3 years of probation, which restricted my travel and had 13 other conditions. Upon release from prison, no longer a pilot, I returned to the same treatment center where I had once been a patient and worked full-time with other alcoholics. Pay was minimal, but I found I was effective at reaching others, and I wanted desperately to pay back some of what so many had given me. I did that for 20 months. For a long time, I did not consider flying again, but I could not purge the dream of doing so from my heart. One of my meditation books had said, "Before any dream can come true, there must first be a dream." I had been told if I wanted to fly again, I would have to begin at the very bottom with a private license, even though I had previously held the highest license the FAA awarded, the Air Transport Pilot License. I studied for and looked all the lengthy FAA written examinations, I had to go back to relearn things I had learned 30 years before and had long required my and had long since forgotten. I had unexpectedly been able to reacquire my FAA medal certificate after proving the quality of my sobriety for more than 2 years. The trial judge had put sanctions on me that made it impossible for me to apply again because of my age. My lawyer had become my friend and worked for 3 years after my conviction without taking a cent from me. He was one more person who entered my life in a manner I could only ascribe to some kind of divine providence. He took a motion to the judge to lift the sanctions, and the tears came flooding down my cheeks when he called to let me know the judge had approved it. With the lifting of those sanctions, the impossible became slightly less impossible. An extraordinary amount of work was left to do, but at least the attempt could now be made. None of my friends thought it possible to regain licenses literally from the ground up, but I had learned how to do many things one day at a time, one small step at a time. So I went after the license in exactly that manner. Had I chosen to view the whole panorama of licensing requirements, I would have quit. They were simply too overwhelming, but one day and one thing at a time, they were doable. So I did them. I knew no one would ever hire me to fly passengers. I was an ex-con, a convicted felon, a drunk. I had doubts as to whether anyone would even allow me to fly cargo. It took several months for the FAA to process my license and mail them to me. On the exact day they arrived, another miracle occurred. I received a phone call from the head of the pilot union who informed me that the president of the airline had decided personally to reinstate me. I had not pursued the legal grievances process I was entitled to because I knew my actions could never be defended or excused. I had steadfastly accepted responsibility in front of TV cameras and in the treatment center because my recovery demanded rigorous honesty. It was almost beyond my ability to believe that the president of the airline could even consider having me work for them again. I marveled at the courage of such a man and such an airline. What if I relapsed? What if I flew drunk again? The media would have a field day. For days afterward, as I woke each morning, my first thought was that it had only been a dream, that it could not possibly have occurred. Almost 4 years after my arrest and the explosive devastation of my life, I signed my back to work agreement, restored to full seniority given the retirement I had lost, and once again an airline pilot. A large crowd gathered to watch me sign the document. So much had happened in my life. I lost almost everything I had worked to acquire. My family had suffered public shame and humiliation. I had been the object of scorn, shame, and disgrace. Yet much more had also happened. Every loss had been replaced with rewards. I had seen the promise of the big book come true in a magnitude I could never have imagined. I had gotten sober. I had regained my family, and we were once again close and loving. I had learned how to use 12 steps and to live the wonderful program that was founded so many years ago by two drunks. It took several years, but I learned to be grateful for my alcoholism and the program of recovery. It forced me into for all the things that had happened to me and for me. For a life today that transcends and far exceeds anything I had previously known. I could not have that today if I had not experienced all the yesterdays. My back to work agreement said I would retire as a co-pilot, but the miracle in this program had never ceased for me. And last year I was notified that the president of my airline had granted permission for me to once again be a captain. I retired at age 60, and I checked out as a 747 captain, which means my final year at my airline concluded in the left seat. The circle so scared to my Indian or sacred to my Indian people will once again have been completed. I take little credit for all that has happened. I suited up and showed up, but the process of the grace of a loving God and the help of so many people, or so many around me, have been far more responsible for all the events in my life. Today, one of my sons has more than 3.5 years of sobriety after nearly losing his life to alcohol and drugs. He is truly one more miracle in my life for which I am so deeply grateful. I have returned to my Indian people once again after a long shame-filled absence. I am dancing again and returning to the old ways I left behind. I've spoken at 2 Native American AA conventions, something I never thought I'd see when I was a youngster growing up. Adversity truly introduces us to ourselves, but we need never deal with our adversities alone. As long as we can find another alcoholic in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Ooh, doggy, let me. When I was doing my benders, if you want to call it that, I didn't want to be the alcoholic that I knew I could end up being, but I did, and I went fast and I went hard, right on down, because I wasn't new to alcohol. I'd had alcohol through my life, but it wasn't all the time like it was in my 30s. When I was in the drinking, I didn't care what the hell I did, who I offended, who I pissed off, what I did. I didn't care. That was it, and my sister and I got into many, many, many fights, and one came to blows, and it wasn't us. Well, no, there was twice. We did beat each other up once, but that was all in one day of, we were been drinking for days, and we just hit the end of our rope and we got into it. And that's the problem with alcohol. It makes you do stupid shit. Excuse my language, but it's true. It makes you do stupid crap. And I drank a lot. I did the whiskey. Well, let's start off before I was even adult enough to drink. Jack Daniels on my gums. Mind you, Jack Daniels was my drink of choice. um, but having wine on Christmas Eve, at midnight mass, uh, going and drinking with my friends, running away from home and drinking with my adult boyfriend. 21. Heck yeah. They could buy me the beer or liquor, whichever it was. I didn't care. Um, but I did the whiskey. I did the. I don't think I ever drank bourbon, thank goodness, but I probably would have drank it because it would have got me drunk, I didn't care. There I am. Yay. Stupid laptop. Anyways, I did the all those things of um drinking beer after, trying to play it off like I was gonna quit drinking by taking less alcohol, but actually taking probably a little more than what I had been. Losing my family in the process. I didn't care. And when I found I'd already been sober for a couple of months, and it was one of the best things that happened because, it's not every day that you have a friend that reaches out to you and says, I'm an alcoholic too, want to go to a meeting? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. And it just happened to be in my hometown, and I know people out there, so it was good, and I felt comfortable going to that meeting because I knew somebody there. And then I would go to meetings but not stay because I didn't know anybody, and if my friend wasn't there, I wasn't very comfortable. But I learned how to accept that I needed to be there because I wasn't there for nothing. And when I finally started listening to the program and how to work the program and the steps to take, and that I have people I can call and I have a place that I know I can go. But I hit rock bottom more than once. The first time I hit rock bottom, I just wanted away from here. I wanted as far away from here as I could get. And I moved to Washington. I was there for 6 months, I think. I quit drinking for a year. And I did maybe, I'm cured and I can just go ahead and go back out and drink, No, that ain't how it works. No, because I went right straight back down to the bottom of the bottle. And of course, it was good old Jack Daniels. You ain't good no more, and you ain't coming in my house. I stopped allowing alcohol in my home 15 years ago. Or not 15 years ago. 10 years ago. November 15th. That's why I was thinking 15. But, the program is worth every day, every meeting that you go to. It's worth it because you will figure out that you do have people that are there to help you when you need the help, which is sometimes more than once a day. I've called people like 10 times a day. It's like, hello, I need to talk to somebody. And, that's what they're there for. I'm a sponsee and I'm a sponsor. So I know how it is to be that new person because I'm an old timer to the group, but I'm not that long into sobriety, but I do remember those things that I've had to do and the struggles that I went through and all of it. And it's something that I'm never going to forget. But learning how to work my steps on a daily basis, it helps a lot. It helps more than some people think. And I can sit with my friends and my family members and tell them what I feel about it. When I see them drinking or when they want to talk about drinking, and I'm just, I just put myself up there and I will defend my sobriety against everything. And if walking away from things is what happens, then there's a reason why I walked away. But it doesn't mean I'm not coming back. Um, it's just I have to have time for me, and that's part of sobriety. You got to work your program how you work it. And I have days that I just want to sit here and do absolutely nothing. Meditate all day. I don't go outside. I just sit here. And sometimes that's what you need. It doesn't mean that you're jumping off the wagon or not working your steps or working your program, because that's part of it. Having your meditation time to be able to go over things that you need to go over in your mind and figure it out. So if you don't figure it out, it could damage your sobriety a lot. And you always have to be thinking about yourself, your sobriety above all else. And that's what I do every day. I think, I'm going to stay sober today. And if I have to pull out one of the steps and use it, I'm going to, because there's nothing going to make me go drink again other than myself. And I don't want to let myself do that. And being a recovering alcoholic and being able to share my sobriety with others and share AA with others is a lifelong work, because I'm gonna forever be a recovering alcoholic. Being an alcoholic doesn't go away. Being sober goes a long way. Can be forever. But you don't have to drink. Just remember that. You don't have to drink. It's not worth it. It wasn't worth it for me. And I know one drink isn't going to be enough. And it won't stop at one. But again, if you want it to work, you have to work your steps. It's and the number one, you have to want it for yourself. Nobody else can hold you accountable but you. So whatever you choose to do is on you yourself. And you can't blame somebody else for things that happen that you can have control over, and that is yourself. So, anyways, I'm glad you all are here joining me today for a anybody else came in. Hi, Ash. I didn't see you come in. Of course, I was reading. Good to see you here. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and read the daily reflection, which is an app you can get on your phone, your Chromebook, your laptop, whatever device you have. I have one that has all of the stuff that you can use. Books, audiobooks, the newspaper thingy, where people share stories in. Um, my sponsor put one in the little magazine thing, and under where was I? The precipitation struck up from my roots. Spirit arms lengthened into strong green shoots. High springing servants stepping skyward. Here on earth, God unconditionally continues the legacy of higher love. My AA life put me on a different footing. My roots grasped a new soil. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 12. And that's hi, Tony. Let's say our serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. Just remember, you're never alone, and there's help everywhere.